Okay, so you ready?
I'm ready.
Cool.
I'm ready.
Okay, so let's put our hands together for Neena. Thank you.
All right, morning everyone. I'm not really ready, I lied. But I might as well get this out of the way so I can enjoy the rest of the day and spend it with all of you. As I was preparing for this speech today, I was reflecting on what it was like for me last year. I was sat in the audience, I was listening to all the speakers, and there were all these inspiring stories. People who were coaching in the corporate world, executive coaches, people who were billing clients for £8,000 in the last month when they'd only worked with them a couple of times. I was thinking, wow, that's inspirational, but it's very far away from where I am. Less than a year later, I'm standing on this stage in front of you today. And why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing this because my business did take off. I have a steady stream of referrals and they're coming in as clients. I'm watching the transformation in all the current clients that I have. And I'm also seeing this point in my life where I'm just more confident in what I do. I love what I'm doing. It's financially sustainable. I didn't take a pay cut. I came from the corporate world, banking and consulting, and you all know the rumors. And the rumors are true when it comes to the pay package. But as a coach, you can earn that as well. So I have this sustainable business. And the reason I'm saying this to you is because many of you are new coaches, or you're just starting out with your business, or you've just started working with paying clients. So I'm wondering, as I look around the room, who sat out there is going to be on the stage next year? Who's going to be talking about the successes that they had in the previous year? It's totally doable, and it's totally doable within a year. A big part of how I got here was the Animas community. And I stepped back last night and I reflected over those people who made that happen. And Rob was one of them, and he doesn't know I'm about to talk about him. But Rob helped me on endless supervision sessions. I found that it was important to develop myself as a coach, but actually when I started working with clients, I hit hurdles. There were situations which I didn't know how to handle. And Rob helped me. He listened to these endless musings and these quandaries that I had, and he helped me think through my thoughts and what I was going to do with these clients. So I encourage you, if you haven't got one, people always talk about getting a coach. Yes, great. But when you start working with clients, get a supervisor. Have a sounding board, someone that you can talk to, and you can feel more confident when you're in front of a client that this is what I'm learning and this is what I know is the right thing to do with you. Nick helped me with the mentoring, the business side of things. And my Launchpad group, who I've got a few of you out there in the audience, heard endless musings of me wondering what my niche was, how I should approach my business, what my branding is. So there were a lot of people in this community that helped me. So I got to where I am now. And if I think about what really makes my business successful, it's two elements. The first one is the foundations of it. So I'd like to talk to you about the foundations today, and that's really rooted in my story. And it's a huge risk for me to share my story openly. There's very few people in my life, not only in this room, but in my life, who know my story and what drives me. And then I'd like to talk to you about some of the mistakes I made along the way. I say mistakes, but I'm going to change that word later on today. And then some of the practical insights that I picked up. Now, when it comes to the foundations of my business and what drives me as a coach, there's two things. The first one is I'm absolutely convinced that what I do has an impact. I'm convinced in the approach that I take. I'm convinced in my ability as a coach. And I know that it changes lives. And the second reason why I think I'm successful as a coach, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but I've got this fuck it and see attitude. I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to do it. I'm not prepared to hold myself back anymore, and I'm not doing it. Now, I lived a life which many of you will be somewhat familiar with, either in your own lives or with your clients, where I had this divide between the internal and the external. And I was working with Victoria only yesterday, and she was helping me get my messaging clear on my website. And we realized how integral this was to me. This internal life where I was anxious, insecure, I was living life on autopilot, I was wondering what life was about. Why was there even a point to life? And then there was this external life where I worked for Barclays, I worked for Deloitte, I was a high-flying corporate person on this career ladder, and I was doing really well. I went to the top business school. Yeah, everything, all these boxes were being ticked, but there was this divide. And 6 years ago, I hit a crisis point. Crisis Point took me on a journey, and in that journey I started by going off and doing ayahuasca with a shaman in the jungle. It was 20 hours on a bus and 7 hours on a boat and then 4 hours trekking through the jungle, turning up at this mud hut with this shaman and doing this ayahuasca every night. And I reached insights there, but I didn't know how to integrate them. Coming back, I started doing these trauma therapy retreats. I remember on the first day of this therapy retreat, putting my hand up, and Chris, this is all fine, but I've done a lot of work on myself, and nothing seems to change. And he looks at me and he says, you haven't even started yet. What do you mean? I know exactly what my problems were. I had analysed the hell out of my childhood. I knew exactly what was going on. It was all my parents' fault, and I knew exactly what the cause of my problems were and what I needed to do to fix it. Of course I did. I'm on this retreat, aren't I? Surely that tells you I know everything. He was right. I didn't know. I'd analysed everything in my life. I'd theorised about everything, but what I hadn't done was got in touch with it. I hadn't felt it. So some of you might be familiar with that moment, for example, when you're angry at someone, you're having a fight, and you're angry, but you're not really connected to the anger. And then later, somehow it hits you, actually, I'm really angry. I was really angry. And there's a difference between thinking it and feeling it. And in these retreats, and then working with therapists one-to-one and coaches one-to-one, I learned that there was this whole other life out there, this emotional side of me that I had no idea about. And it changed my life entirely. I discovered that by owning my emotions, by being able to process them, by getting in touch with myself, I could connect with myself, I could connect with other people, and I could do something like this, where I'm standing on stage with you and I'm just being myself. There's things that I learned that changed my life that now give me the confidence that what I do, I'm absolutely sure of. I know that it changed my life, and I know that when someone comes to me and they're in the state that I was in, it can change their lives too. 3 years ago, around August in 2013, I was in an intensive care unit, and I was sat next to my mother. And she had had a sudden cardiac arrest 3 weeks earlier. It was out of the blue, and she had been in a waking coma since then. And I was sat with a neurologist and this consultant saying to me and asking for my consent to turn the ventilator off. I'm an only child. I was very close to my mother. I spent a great deal of my life caring for her. She had disability since she was young. We turned the ventilator off. It was the right decision. But in the weeks that passed after that, it was like that moment in the life of Pi where he's on a raft and he's in the middle of the ocean and he's drifting and there's nothing to anchor him. And any of you who have lost a parent, particularly a mother, know what I'm talking about. You left spinning. There's nothing to anchor you to the universal life anymore. And I didn't know that it affected me like this, but it did. It was tough. It was tough, and it was about to get even harder. In the next 4 months, I lost my relationship. I got made redundant. So I lost my job in the corporate world that had been my identity, and I ended up in hospital. 4 months, 4 major traumas. Any one of them could have stopped me completely. And thankfully, my reaction to that was to say, fuck it, I'm just going to live now. Because you know what? She was 61 years old. And she died. And all those cliches that you think, they come back and they're true. Those cliches that you only live once, you're going to die, you need to just live before you die. It's real. Because I'd lived 10 years and I'd lived this life that I didn't want to live. And I was at this moment where I was looking at someone and thinking, you're just going to die. And it was a complete turning point in my life. And I said this to Victoria yesterday, that's bittersweet. It was the most devastating moment in my life, but it was also this moment where it just freed me to say, that's it, go out there and do it. And I tell you this story because these foundations really drive me. It's not the how do we put the business model together. It's not the how do we do the marketing. I mean, these things are important and they help the business run, but it's the you. So start by asking yourself, what's really driving you? Do you believe in what you do? What is your why? And there's a great TED talk and a book that Simon Sinek wrote that's called Starting With Your Why. You know, let's not start with what the product is. Let's not start with what your niche is. Let's not start with how you coach. Let's just start with who you are. Why do you do it? Bring yourself to the coaching. And the second part is, what are you doing that's holding you back right now? What are you stopping yourself from doing? And how do you take that first step to just get your energy out there in the world? Because there's nothing to lose. Just get it out there. So this is my background. And hopefully that helps you understand a little more when I say it's totally doable, and it's doable from difficult situation to actually start and make it work. How did I actually get started in coaching? Well, the truth is I kind of fooled myself into it. When I said, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to go out there, I'm going to do it now, well, the reality was it was Christmas. I was sat there, I was with my partner's family, and I was on the website, on Squarespace. I'm just going to, dabble a bit and put together a website. So I did, but I'm not actually going to show anyone. So I did it. It's like, actually, it's okay. It looks okay. It looks quite professional. Squarespace is quite a good site. I liked it. It looked pretty good. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to show my partner. So I did. I pulled him into the room, and it was this secret conspiracy, and the family was wondering what was going on. He comes into the room. He's like, looks really good, babe. I love it. I really like it. Oh, really? Okay. Why don't we show your mother and see what she thinks? So we bring his mother in, who speaks Swedish and Polish, doesn't speak any English, and she's looking at the site. She's like, it looks lovely. What is it? It's my website, but it looks lovely, right? So I'll share it with a few friends. So I basically fooled myself step by step to saying, okay, I'm just one more person. And a couple of days later, for some reason, it ended up being live. I don't really know how that happened, but I put it out there. And I had my first paying client. Wait a minute. It's before I set up the business. It's before I qualified. Before I even realized that I was a coach. I just kind of fooled myself into putting myself out there. So I guess what I'm saying is, rather than theorizing over everything and trying to get everything right, just take it incrementally. What's that next one thing you can do? What's that one person you can go and talk to get a client? What's that one thing you can do to get your name out there a little bit? Because if you don't put it out there, no one's going to know you're a coach. They're not going to come to you. So it's a little bit at a time. And I learned that by taking this incremental approach, I could then trial and error things, and I became a learner, and that was a really good way for me to do it. Now, I did trial and error, so there were mistakes I made along the way. Now, I say mistakes, but really it's not mistakes, because I was trying things. Some things stuck, some things didn't. But a few of the things I learned that I wish I had known a bit earlier that might help you today is I spent a little bit too long doing things that I didn't enjoy, just that little bit too long. I stopped eventually, but I did those things. So one of the things was I started off by defining myself as a career coach. Now, I didn't enjoy going through people's CVs. I didn't enjoy looking at I wasn't a careers advisor, but that's essentially what I turned myself into, because I thought that was an easy way to start, right? I've got a corporate background. It's an immediate network. It's easy to tap into the MBA community. I spent a little bit too long doing that, when actually my passion lay with the emotional side and the life coaching side and the whole person. So thinking about what you're doing at the moment that doesn't really flow and fit with you as a person, and pulling yourself away from that towards the things that really energize you. And part of that was also the marketing. I mean, I tried endlessly to write. Now, I wasn't a terrible writer when it came to things like articles, but I spent a long time trying to write. I was like running through mud. I was like, okay, I have to sit down, it's a blank piece of paper, and I have to write something. I don't enjoy writing, why am I doing this? But because I have to, right? Because I have to write an article to get a client, and then I have to do this. So just that too long doing that. And the one classic that you'll hear people say is sticking with clients who aren't right for you. So I don't mean clients who aren't making too much progress. I mean clients where there's not a good fit. Maybe your approach just doesn't resonate with them, or maybe there's something about them that's just not energizing you. And stepping away from those people, and look, there's a community around you, using other people. There's probably someone else in the room who they're a great fit for. You're finding another way to help them. But you don't need to be running through mud to set up the business. So that was the first thing that I learned. And just thinking about what was the second thing. So the second thing was I spent a long time trying to define my niche at the outset. You heard Carrie talk about being a nicheless coach. And I got preoccupied with what was my coaching about, who was I, how do I define my messaging. The truth is, you don't really need to know all of that at the start. You know yourself. You know some of what you're about. Just start there. When we go into conversation, suppose you meet someone at a party or something, you just have a conversation with them, right? You're a person, they're a person, you connect, you find common ground. Somehow, when we step into this coaching business environment, we start to think of ourselves as needing an elevator pitch, needing some clear, concise messaging. Everything needs to be buttoned down, and we can't possibly change it. But that's not true. I started as a career coach, and now I'm doing something entirely different. It just built itself along the way. But if you don't start by getting out there and getting clients and working with them, you just don't know what you're about. It's very hard to theorize over that. So instead of me sitting there and thinking about what my niche was and what I'm doing, etc., I started coaching. And very quickly I realized who the right clients were for me and who really transformed as a result of my coaching. And I started working with them more and more. And those are the people that started referring other people to me. And that was a great way of doing it. I loved it. And there was another point that I learned, which wasn't quite a mistake, but it was a learning. And it's actually a really recent learning. I'm talking the last week now. I realized that I was using often other people's words. So I would get quotes from other people, I'd get little tidbits, I'd quote Brené Brown, I'd use her videos on my, like all these things from other people, but I wasn't using my own words. And it only occurred to me recently that I could. I could use my own words and I could put my name at the bottom because I have words, I have thoughts, I've learned stuff, I'm helping people, I know what I'm doing, I'm working with clients. So I started to trust more and more myself and my own thoughts. There is stuff that you can share with the world. So instead of relying on someone else's thoughts and expertise and other things, start bringing yourself into your coaching and into your marketing and into your website and into your brand. It doesn't need to be other people that you're bringing in there. So those were the things that I would call mistakes or not mistakes. They were kind of, I could have done betters. But in terms of the insights that I had that might help you from a practical perspective, there were 3. I talked a bit about this doing things that you enjoy, doing things that energize you. Now, I ask clients a lot, what energizes you, what drains you, what people energize you, what people drain you. And when it comes to clients, I realize that it works really well if you work with the clients that energize you and inspire you. And the reason it works well is because they end up in a virtuous cycle. I have most of my clients now coming through referrals, and they're spontaneous referrals. Why? Because those clients liked working with me, they saw their lives transform, they have friends, they have family, they want their lives to transform too, so they send them over. And typically, they are connected to the kind of people that I want to work with. So it ends up being really good in that way. So suppose you're working with young people, youth for example, and you do really well with a particular young person, say they're 20 years old, 18 years old, they're probably connected to other people in that age group, other people in that demographic, other people in that kind of community. So it's a good way of doing it is just to build up one person at a time. So instead of thinking about that big picture and where you're going and all of those things, just start with that one person at a time. And something that's really subtle that I noticed was I gave up thinking that there was a limited pool of potential clients out there. And that really freed me. So I now have a consultation with someone. I don't coach them on the consultation. I just understand them. And I give them the vision of where I think we can get to through the coaching. And it's okay if I don't think I'm the right fit for them. I'll find someone else for them. Why is it okay? Why do I not desperately need to sell to them? Because there's a billion other people out there who need coaching. And it'll be fine. The next one will come along. But letting go of that desperate neediness, I need to convert you, you need to become a client, this needs to happen now, and then I need you to stick with me, just meant that we were free and it was flexible and it flowed, and that's the kind of person I am as well. I don't give people packages. I work week to week. They keep coming back. We schedule in next week, we do next week, we do the next week. That's how it works. And eventually we get to a point where we're like, okay, I think we're good. You don't really need me anymore. So this is how we'll transition out of it. But I don't get them to pay up front and commit to 6 months because I don't believe that I need to, because that's the way I work. And it seems to be working really well. And when it comes to the marketing, again, doing things that you enjoy. Everyone seems to have this thing about what's your return on investment. So how much are you getting? How many clients are you converting? What's happening through that? How much marketing dollars did you spend? And that's great and it's nice. But in a really small business, the reality is you're not spending thousands and thousands on marketing. You're spending a little bit of your budget and you're trying things out and you're seeing what works. Now, freeing myself up to do the things I enjoy meant that I stopped writing articles completely. Instead, I did podcasts. Why? Because I just love sitting there and talking into a microphone. It's nice. It feels like me just musing out loud. And I let it flow. I don't need to prepare endless amounts. I don't need to get the text and the wording completely right. So I have a podcast called Transformative Coaching. I didn't worry too much about what I was going to do with it. I just started doing it. It was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed doing it. And I had clients coming back to me and saying, wow, I listened to that podcast and it really resonated with me. And can we start talking about this thing? And other people saying, I passed it on and that worked and my friend really liked it. And that started to work really well and I enjoyed it a lot. But it was because it was a thing that I enjoyed as opposed to I need to do this to go and get clients. Let go of the outcome stuff. Let go of it. That's later. Just start doing stuff. Go out there, get your client. Ask yourself right at this moment, just at this moment for a second, what's the marketing type that you actually like doing? Do you like to write? Do you like to speak? Do you like to network? Do you like to be on stage? Do you like to do things like Instagram and artwork? Do you prefer online marketing where you have the data and you're doing it? Which one of these things I'm saying, which one just jumps out at you and you would do it anyway? If a friend asked you for help, you'd go and help them write an article anyway. I wouldn't. There's absolutely no way. But what would you do that you actually enjoy doing? Starting with that. The second insight that I had, which was more practical, was something actually Natasha Hayes said to me. So she's one of the Animites. She recommended a book to me that was all about becoming a learner and creatively trying things. And I loved that approach and it resonated with me so much. So it was this idea, for example, that when you go out there and do something, you seem to have this concept that you need to be an expert at it. But you don't. How many of you play an instrument? Or have ever played an instrument? How many of you have ever tried a new sport, for example? Everyone's tried something new, right? How many of you picked up a guitar and on the first day thought, yeah, I'm going to be able to play, I'm going to be an expert, I'm going to be on stage tomorrow? How many of you kicked a football and thought, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to be in the England soccer team? I mean, you don't when you're learning something like a sport or an instrument or something like this, but we seem to do it when we're doing stuff like marketing or we're trying something new in our business. It seems to be like, no, I need to get that right. Why? So when I did my podcast, I knew I wasn't going to be good on my first podcast. I knew it. I didn't have the right microphone. I didn't have the right intro music. I didn't really know what I was going to say. I didn't know how long it was going to be, but I was trying. But what I did know is by the time I did my 150th one, I was going to nail it. Be really good at it then. But not if I didn't do the first one. So if there's something that you want to do right now and you're just procrastinating over it because you're wondering how you make it happen and how you make it happen really well, just forget it. Forget the self-importance and the needing to be infallible. Just go out there and try things. Be a child. And it's really great to do it in that way. And the last thing that I'd like to talk to you about, actually, before I do, the one thing that did lead me to do was do a TED Talk. I'm an extremely strong introvert, so I did a TED Talk, and now I'm on stage talking to you guys. Why? I didn't know if I'd be any good at it. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. I was going to try. If I liked it and enjoyed it, I was going to work on it. I was going to keep doing it. If I didn't like it, I wasn't going to do it. I was going to go off and do my podcast again, and it was going to be fine. But it's just that trying thing. The last thing that I'd like to mention is practically in terms of the processes of the business. So people have talked about, Carrie mentioned it, Nick mentions it all the time, the lifestyle, making sure the lifestyle works around you. But there's practical things you can do. So which locations are you operating out of? Which timings of the day are you working on? Don't compromise on these things. It's unsustainable. There's no good saying to a client that you'll do it at 9 o'clock at night if that doesn't really fit with you as a person. Do things that fit right with you. Now, I do very simple processes in my business. So, for example, I have a Google Docs. At the end of every week, I translate everything from my calendar and coaching sessions into this Google Docs list. I have a coaching log. At the end of every month, I invoice clients on the sessions that I've had at the end of that month. That gives me a chance to reflect on how much coaching I've done weekly, how much I've done at the end of the month, do a quick sum, very high level, to say, okay, well, how much do I want to do next month? So it's very simple, very high level processes, but ones that actually help you and support you. So that helps me to track what the coaching is that I've done. It helps me to build clients and it helps me to forecast. But if I said to many of you, you need to forecast in your business, you'd be like, forecast? Well, I don't really know. How many clients do I need next month? How many sessions am I going to do with them? How much am I going to charge them? Just a little at a time, and it works. And I did things like, for example, I set up direct debits for my clients. So all my clients are on direct debit, so now I'm in control of charging them. I have policies that work for me. I have a 24-hour cancellation policy, so I always have certainty within the time period that I'm comfortable with. And my clients know up front, they know exactly where they stand, and we don't have to faff about with money. I don't have to go into this deep and meaningful conversation about their childhood and they say, by the way, that's £100, please. Or, you know what, you need to commit to working with me for 6 months. Because that's not the way I work. Some people do, and it works well for them, not the way I work. So the thing that I'd like you to take away from today is you're the person here on stage who's just like you, but is living a life that they love, with a business that they love, transforming clients' lives every day, and I just enjoy it so much. But the way to get there is just to bumble your way through. Give up that theorizing, give up trying to make it perfect. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know what? Life expectancy is 79 in the UK. How many years do you want to spend theorizing over these things? Just get out there and try things. Thank you.